together, we're the Rons.
Ronnie, do you remember that time you got stuck in the snow and were late for that meeting, and then all you could do is complain about how terrible the meeting was? Like you'd rather been stuck in the snow?
I do remember that very well. In fact, I don't think that's the only meeting I remember like that. I think it's probably half the meetings I'm in is how do you get out of it? And I think a lot of people are in that scenario where they have a meeting that is just dragging on.
A 15-minute meeting feels like 15 hours if there's no point to it. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, this meeting in particular, I remember, it was as if somebody was dragging their nails down a chalkboard. It was just so painful. And the problem is that this meeting had no purpose. And meetings like that are super frustrating. I think this is a topic that a lot of people want to talk about.
Yeah, I agree, Ronnie. Let's do that. Meetings have this connotation of it's just going to be boring and pointless. Like it's like a meeting to have a meeting. It's just there's no point to it. And I've had some horrible ones, but Ronnie, give us some tidbits on some bad meetings you sat in.
So my least favorite meetings are meetings that actually have no purpose. Like they may have a purpose for the person who called the meeting, but they didn't let everyone else know what that purpose was. And so it ends up being just this meeting where you just ramble.
Thanks everybody, pardon me for being 15 minutes late. Better than last time, I was 20 minutes late. Okay, let's get on with it. So today we're gonna talk about what next week's meeting is gonna be about. You okay?
Yeah.
All right. Maybe grab some coffee? Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Okay, next week's meeting. What should we talk about? Some of the worst meetings I've been in, and there's nobody there facilitating. No one's directing traffic. No one's trying to get other people involved. That's the worst when it's just kind of a free-for-all.
Right, yeah, and I think meetings need an agenda. And you really need to stick to that agenda, which also means it has a time. Yeah. Like how long should this meeting be? Is it open-ended or it just goes forever?
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
Oh yeah, and people, rightly or wrongly, do not have a long attention span and also a stamina for sitting in one place. All right, so it's 11:05, meeting was supposed to start at 11. I get it, there's some traffic, no harm, no foul, but let's go ahead and get into it. We got to really figure out what we're going to do with this building. All right, let's start. I totally slept in. Joe? Jack?
What? Yeah?
It looks like you're having a side conversation.
Oh, we were just talking about something important.
Okay, all right. But need to talk about the building. We need to talk about it as a group. We got to get consensus here.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So what I encourage people to do, get up, move around, and also make the meeting as short as possible. Get done early, get done early.
Yeah, I think attention span is a key thing. And everyone's different.
Yep.
Like I know my attention span of listening to, us talk about meetings is probably short as well. So I'm sure our audience thinks the same. And it's easy to be negative on a meeting, but meetings can be good. Like there are meetings that actually have purpose and can be productive, but how do you do that? Like, what are some of the things that you would want to do to make it have a great meeting?
Oh man, there's a lot of them. But first thing, set it up properly. Set it up to be a certain time duration and live within that duration.
Yeah.
And ideally less than 90 minutes. And if you need something longer, like a day-long meeting, take big breaks where people can recharge and go back into it.
Right. I think, recurring meetings can be challenging as well because recurring meetings often feel like you have them every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Okay, well, do we have anything to talk about every Wednesday at 8 a.m.? Like you really need to decide whether a meeting needs to be a standing meeting or whether a meeting needs to be just an update.
Another key thing to think about is someone there has to be in charge of facilitating. But that doesn't mean that person does all the talking. It's actually the opposite. The person facilitating should be doing the least amount of talking and getting everybody else involved. Because when everybody weighs in, they buy into the goal of the meeting.
Being on time, and we did start this by me saying I was late to a meeting, which is true, but it's super lame if you're late to a meeting. If a meeting starts at 8, that doesn't mean that you show up at 8 minutes or 8:01. It means you're there at 7:55, 7:57, so that you can actually start the meeting at 8. And that's, you just have to be respectful by everybody having clear times that they start.
Such a great point, because in some cultures, fashionably late is just the norm, and that's fine, but not in business meetings. Another thing is making sure that you start the meeting with some kind of just personal chit chat or conversation, because most people go into a meeting like, oh my gosh, it's another meeting, because there's
Right.
such a negative connotation. Go and make it a little bit fun at the beginning, maybe an icebreaker, or just at least if people share a little bit of their personal story or what's going on in their lives.
And you know those people in meetings that, you know, if you think of kind of the different culprits that make a meeting bad, like there's a few things that come to my mind. You know, like the person who hijacks the meeting, they always have something to add, and it's not really adding any value. It's just basically either kissing up to the person doing the meeting or trying to be the obstructionist to the meeting.
Oh yeah. All right, folks, let's talk about that brand strategy.
Yeah, so I think, you know, what Ronald's really saying here is that we've got to think about this from the right perspective of how we're going to position the brand. And it's really...
Joel, great. I'm glad you jumped right in there. Let's start at the top.
So yeah, we start with one.
Thank you, Joel. Carl, jump in. Okay, let's start with our customer focus group.
Right, that's a great thing, Carl. You know, the customer focus group is so important. We got to start with the top. The most important thing is those customers. So it's really
Joel, you actually didn't participate in the customer focus groups. Value your opinion. Let me talk about
right,
those
but the technology part of it, Carl, is really important. If you think about it from an IT standpoint.
Joel, hold it.
Yeah,
okay, you
yeah,
good?
yeah,
all right,
good.
all right, Carl, go ahead.
Yeah, so again, the brand strategy, oh, I'm sorry, you said Carl. Or what about the person who runs the meeting that's always like pandering to try to get people to talk in the meeting? Hey, do you have anything else to add? Are you guys sure? Is there anything else? Like,
right.
You know, if they had something, they would have added it.
Trying to get everybody involved doesn't mean like cold calling like you're back in high school or
Right.
something on people. Talk about things that generally people want to talk about. That's the key thing too. Make sure you have the right people in the meeting. Isn't it the worst when it feels like the entire company was invited to talk about a topic that you really only needed 3 people in that meeting?
Totally.
And you usually have 30 people in the meeting, and the rest of them there, what are they doing? They're on their phones, they're on their laptops. Right. That's a whole other point.
Oh, I'm glad you brought up the phones. Like the person who's taking notes on their phone, whatever, paper and pen. Like when you go to a meeting, technology, unless it's part of that meeting culture and needs to be in there, pen and paper. Like take notes the old school way.
Thanks folks for getting together, and thank you for getting here a little bit early so we could get started right on time. So our financial statement audit, we got to have a plan for it. We got to come out of this in an hour with a financial statement plan audit. Jimmy, you know, we got the rules of the game. We don't have electronics.
Oh, I was just taking notes.
So if you're actually going to be in person, act like humans interacting in person.
Absolutely. And you know, the meeting doesn't have to be a set amount of time. You know, oftentimes I see people who are running the meeting that it's a 60-minute meeting and we're really done at 40 minutes, but they feel like they have to fill 20 minutes to use the hour. Like, why? Just end it early. Give me back 20 minutes of my day.
Exactly. I say that all the time to people. Let's see. I even start meetings that way. I'll be like, let's see if we can get this done and give some of our time back to us. Really, really great point. There's so many times folks put so many different goals into a meeting, and there's probably only 1 to 3 things that you're trying to get out of this thing, and so really being succinct about what you're going to talk about, so there's not this scope creep, and all of a sudden you're talking about everything under the sun, and probably most of the people in the room shouldn't even be deliberating on any of those topics in the first place. You got to keep the meeting going in the right direction. So my advice is every 15 to 30 minutes, make sure you're checking in with folks. Hey, are we accomplishing the goal? Just ask people, hey, are we on track? Or do we think we're going to get this done? So that you can get buy-in from everybody. And then lastly, don't just run that meeting right up to the bitter end of the thing. You need to culminate that meeting with what the goal is when you've got at least 5, 10, maybe 10% of the meeting left, so that you can get actions. You finish your goal, there's going to be some actions out of it, so you can document those. And if you don't get what you were intending to accomplish, you need more time, just reschedule that. Because you can't just keep on going, because everybody planned their day to finish at that time to move on to other things. So you can't hijack the rest of their day. You got to just complete it, reschedule for the next time, and see if you can get it done then. You know, all this talk about meetings reminds me of those meetings right before lunch. Oh, yeah. You know, those 11 or 11:30 meetings, you're leading into lunch, and everybody's hungry. Yeah, and those get done on time. Oh yeah, of course they do. But then you have another meeting. Yeah. You have the post-meeting meeting about where should we go eat. Oh, and man, that is a chore, trying to get a group of people to eat at the same place. That could be
totally talk about that.
Yeah.
You know what?
Let's
click here. We're gonna talk about that.
We'll talk about that. How do you figure out where to eat with a group of people?
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. I gotta go, Ronald.
All right.
Catch you later.
See you, Ronnie. See ya.